There comes a moment in your life when you realize you no longer fully belong to the reality you've been living, yet you haven't fully stepped into the one your soul has always envisioned. It's a tender, unfamiliar threshold, a space of tension, of quiet friction, of sensing you were made for more while still waking up inside the patterns, environments, and identity of your old self. This isn't confusion. This isn't failure. This is the quantum gap, the breath before the leap. And what you choose here changes everything. If you're watching this, you're already standing inside that threshold. You felt the pull between the life you have and the life that was written in your soul long before you arrived. You've tasted fragments of that future in dreams, in meditation, in the quickening of your heartbeat when you imagine it. And still the question lingers. Why does it feel so far away? Here's the paradox we rarely speak about. Expansion often begins by feeling like contraction. Breakthrough is usually preceded not by chaos, but by a subtle inner dissonance. The habits that once soothed now feel restrictive. The conversations that once entertained now feel empty. The version of you that once fit so comfortably now feels like a costume 2 sizes too small. But hear the truth. This discomfort isn't a problem. It's your recalibration beginning. Most people try to numb this phase, scrolling, escaping, convincing themselves the dream was unrealistic, that settling is safer. But you didn't come here to settle. You came to leap. You came to shift your entire vibrational identity, to meet the reality calling out to you. And to do that, you must understand the sacred purpose of this in-between. This space is not the absence of clarity. It is the birthplace of alignment. The tension you feel. That's energetic intelligence. It's your soul revealing the gap between how you're living and who you truly are. You're not stuck, you're stretching. And what you stretch into will be shaped entirely by what you choose to believe, embody, and become from this moment forward. We've been taught that transformation happens with a bang, a dramatic event, a radical external change. But in quantum terms, transformation happens at the level of frequency. It happens when the observer, you, shifts not just what they see, but how they see. It happens when you stop chasing the version of yourself you want to become and start embodying the frequency of that version. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, who is the version of me that already lives the life I crave? How do they think? How do they breathe? What do they no longer tolerate? What do they magnetize with ease? That version is not a fantasy. In the quantum field, that version already exists, and the only reason you haven't collapsed into it is because the current you is still transmitting the signal of the past. This is not blame, this is your liberation. The gap between your current life and your dream life is not a void, it's a bridge. But the bridge is not outside of you. It's made of choices, beliefs, frequencies, moment-by-moment alignments. And right now, in this exact breath, you are either reinforcing the past or reaching into the future. Here, what most people miss, the quantum leap doesn't happen after everything aligns. It happens when you decide to align. The leap isn't something you plan, it's something you become. And becoming isn't loud, it's subtle. It's in the way you respond to discomfort, the way you hold your vision in the silence, the way you choose to believe before you see. So if you feel like you're floating between timelines, you are. And that's not a mistake, it's the edge of your evolution. You're not lost. You're being invited into coherence, into integrity, into a reality that already recognizes you, but needs you to recognize it first. Because here's the quantum secret. Your dream reality isn't just waiting for you, it's watching you, responding to every micro-choice, every energetic shift, every decision to honor your higher path. And the moment you choose to trust that this space between two worlds is not a punishment, but a portal, is the moment everything begins to change. Before the leap can happen, something has to die. Not your dreams, not your light, but the outdated version of you that was built to survive, not to expand. And this is one of the most sacred and misunderstood parts of any quantum shift, because letting go of an old identity isn't a mindset hack, it's a cellular transformation. The collapse. And it often feels like loss because it is. Your current reality is the echo of your current identity. The thoughts you think, the beliefs you carry, the emotions you cycle through each day, they're not random. They're a broadcast. And the version of you that created this reality did so with precision, even if unconsciously. It was built on stories, some inherited, some chosen, but all familiar. And now, for the leap to happen, those stories must dissolve. This is the collapse, not of your worth, not of your value, but of the energetic scaffolding that's been holding together a version of you that no longer aligns with where your soul is headed. It's the collapse of the survival self, the people pleaser, the overthinker, the doubter, the one who needed certainty to feel safe. And when this collapse begins, it doesn't always feel empowering. It feels like being stripped down to your essence. Old habits suddenly feel hollow. Old friendships may begin to fade. You may feel disoriented, even lost. But this is not regression, it's a clearing. The quantum field doesn't respond to who you were. It responds to who you're being now. And you cannot create a new reality from the energy of your past. Let's ground this with science. In quantum mechanics, the act of observation collapses a wave of probabilities into a single reality. Your identity functions the same way. When you constantly observe yourself as the one who struggles, the one who never follows through, the one who's too late, too much, or not enough, you collapse into those same limited timelines over and over again. And here's the twist. The field doesn't know the difference between what you believe out of habit and what you believe out of truth. It just responds. So when your inner identity remains entangled with the frequency of fear, doubt, or scarcity, the outer world must reflect those distortions back to you. Not to punish you, but to show you where you're still vibrating from the ask. So ask yourself with compassion, what part of me is still trying to earn love instead of embodying it? What version of me is clinging to control because they don't trust the unfolding? What behaviors am I justifying because they keep me safe, even if they keep me small? The spiritual surgery. This is the spiritual surgery, the moment where honesty becomes the catalyst for elevation. Because only when you recognize the patterns that no longer serve can you consciously collapse them. And that collapse isn't a moment of destruction, it's a sacred dismantling. It's the space where the old coding unravels so that something new can emerge. And here's the beauty of it all. You don't have to wait to feel ready. Readiness is a side effect of alignment. When you decide to release the identity that is tethered to your past, the field begins to respond instantly. Not because everything changes overnight, but because you have changed, and the field always mirrors the being, not the doing. Letting go is an energetic decision. It's when you stop identifying with the voice that says, "I'm not there yet," and start acting from the voice that says, "I've already begun." You don't need to force this shift. You need to feel it to surrender the narrative that says it's too late or too hard or too big for you. Because your dream reality isn't waiting for you to be perfect, it's waiting for you to be true. To stop pretending you're not ready, to stop postponing your power, and to start aligning unapologetically with the version of yourself that already lives in the vibration of your next level. This is not ego, this is evolution. And sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is let the old version of yourself grieve. Not because it was wrong, but because its time has passed. And as you honor that version with gratitude, you open space for a new energetic blueprint to emerge, a blueprint of freedom, of wholeness, of coherence. So if you're feeling the discomfort of release, the ache of inner reorganization, trust it. You are not falling apart. You are falling into alignment. And the collapse you're experiencing now is not an end, it's the beginning of the leap. Everything you experience is made of energy, not metaphorically, literally. Beneath matter, beneath form, beneath the story of your life, there's vibration. And that vibration interacts with a field, the quantum field, where every potential version of your reality already exists. Not just theoretically, not just as imagination, but as real, measurable possibilities. In quantum mechanics, we call this the superposition, the idea that particles exist in multiple states at once until they are observed. The moment they're observed, the wave of infinite probabilities collapses into one specific reality. That act of collapsing is not passive. It's not neutral. It's determined by the observer, by consciousness. You are the observer. Now pause with that. If the universe at its most fundamental level is made of energy that responds to observation, then who you are being, what you are feeling, what you are expecting is actively shaping the reality that shows up in front of you. You're not a passive participant. You're the observer collapsing your life into form every single day. And this is where the spiritual merges with the scientific. When you continue to observe your life through the lens of limitation, I'm behind. Nothing is working. I can't change. You collapse that same frequency over and over again, not because it's your fate, but because you haven't changed your observation. You haven't changed your frequency. And the field mirrors you, not your desire, but your vibration. This is why desire alone isn't enough. You can want something with your conscious mind, but if your emotional state, your internal broadcast, is still anchored in fear, doubt, or unworthiness, the field receives that signal and organizes reality accordingly. Let's say that again more clearly. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you are. To shift your life, you must shift your frequency. And to shift your frequency, you must change the way you observe, not just the world around you, but the identity within you. Who are you being when no one is watching? What emotions are you practicing again and again, as if they are truths? What assumptions are you bringing to your future? These are not passive questions. They are activations. Because as you begin to observe yourself differently, as capable, as worthy, as powerful, you start to collapse different realities. You begin to enter new timelines, not because the world changed, but because your signal did. Dr. Joe Dispenza often says, your personality creates your personal reality. In quantum language, this means your identity, your habitual thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, is the frequency that informs the field what to collapse, and until that frequency shifts, you will remain entangled with the same outcomes. But here's the liberating truth. The field is always listening, always watching, always responding. And the moment you show up differently, consistently, consciously, vibrationally, it begins to respond in kind. This is not magic. This is resonance. Your job isn't to force the leap. It's to create the coherence that makes the leap inevitable. And coherence begins when the mind, heart, and body align in a single frequency. When what you think matches what you feel, and what you feel matches what you do. This is the state in which miracles become ordinary, not because reality suddenly shifts out of nowhere, but because you've become the kind of person that matches that new reality. And this leads us to the real invitation of the quantum leap. Stop chasing, start collapsing. Stop asking when it will happen. Start tuning into the frequency of already done. Because in the field, the version of you who has already leapt already exists. And they're not waiting for you to arrive, they're waiting for you to remember. To stop identifying with the version of you that's stuck and start observing, through repetition, feeling, and presence, the version of you that has already stepped into the next chapter. This isn't philosophy. This is physics. And your ability to collapse the next reality doesn't come from perfect action, it comes from persistent alignment. From choosing to become the observer that sees the world not through fear, but through possibility. So if you're wondering, how do I leap? You don't. You collapse. And the leap happens as a side effect of who you choose to be. How do I leap? Now here's where most people misunderstand the quantum leap. They imagine it as a singular dramatic moment, a flash of transformation, a cinematic breakthrough. And while those moments can happen, they're not the norm. The real leap happens differently, quietly, repeatedly, through what we call vibrational microactions. In quantum terms, even the smallest shift in frequency changes the field. The universe doesn't reward force. It responds to coherence. And coherence is built not in huge gestures, but in consistent alignment, one thought, one choice, one moment at a time. Imagine a tuning fork. When struck, it begins to vibrate, and any other object on the same frequency will begin to resonate in response. That's what your reality is doing. It's resonating with you. So the question isn't how do I leap, but how do I begin to vibrate in harmony with the version of me who already lives that life? It starts with intentional action, not just movement, but movement charged with meaning. Every action you take carries frequency. A rushed morning routine vibrates differently than a sacred pause to breathe into your future. A distracted choice vibrates differently than one chosen from presence and clarity. Let's make this real. Begin with ritual over routine. Instead of mindlessly repeating your day, infuse symbolic meaning into your actions. When you get dressed, ask, what would the version of me who already made the leap wear today? When you drink water, bless it with an intention. When you journal, don't just vent, declare. Next, perform an environmental audit. Your space holds memory, holds identity, and often reflects the frequency of who you were, not who you are becoming. Begin to shift your surroundings to reflect your next-level self. You don't need to renovate your home. Move a chair, clear a drawer, open space. The field notices, and more importantly, you notice, and that changes everything. Now let's talk about belief tracking. This is powerful. Begin to observe your thought patterns, not to judge them, but to understand what identity they're reinforcing. I don't have time. I'm not consistent. This is hard. These aren't just passing thoughts, they are vibrational instructions to the field. So catch them, not with shame, but with curiosity, and then gently shift. I'm learning to create time. I'm choosing presence. Ease is available. Then engage in embodied visualization. Don't just see your future, feel it. Breathe it. Step into it. Before making a decision, pause and ask, what would future me choose? And then act from that frequency. This is not pretending. This is training the field to recognize the new signal you're transmitting. Because here's what the quantum field responds to: integrated energy. Not wishful thinking, not hollow repetition, but choices that carry emotional weight and energetic integrity. You're not just thinking new thoughts, you're being someone new, and that distinction is everything. And here's your anchor. It doesn't matter how small the action is. If it's aligned, it's powerful. Light a candle and set an intention. Go for a walk and rehearse your new identity in your mind. Look at yourself in the mirror and speak to your reflection as if you already are the version you've been waiting to become. Because the truth is, you are. And every microaction becomes a vote for that reality. And now, here's your moment of activation. If you're ready to embody your next leap, if this message stirred something in you that you can't ignore, declare it. Comment below, I am shifting. Not just to write it, but to signal it. To imprint it into the field. To speak to the version of yourself that's watching from the future, waiting for you to remember who you are. This is the difference between wanting and becoming, between waiting and aligning, between hopping and leaping. You're not being tested, you're being tuned. And every micro-choice you make in this new frequency, especially the ones no one sees, is collapsing the next version of your life into form. The leap isn't something you achieve. It's something you become. This is the part most people miss. They think the leap is a destination, a moment, a result. But in quantum terms, it's none of those things. The leap is a vibrational signature. It's the frequency of alignment that begins to emit from you the moment you stop chasing and start being. Becoming isn't loud. It doesn't come with trumpets or lightning. It begins quietly, when you start treating the future you want not as a fantasy, but as a memory. You're remembering how to live. This is the real power when you move through your day no longer asking, "How do I get there?" but instead whispering, "This is who I am now." You brush your teeth as your expanded self. You check your phone from your next timeline. You walk into every room not hopping to fit in, but radiating the energy of the reality you're already connected to. Because once you felt the next version of your life, even for a second, you can't go back. You might try, you might delay, but your soul already knows. And that knowing is what creates the leap. Not the timeline. Not the effort. The identity. That's the paradox. You don't leap and then become someone else. You become, and that is the leap. Everything that's showing up in your reality right now is a reflection of past frequencies and the old signals that are fading. What's important now is not what you're seeing, but what you're transmitting. Because the field is tuning and not to your hopes, but to your coherence. Ask yourself right now, what frequency are my habits vibrating at? What would shift if I treated this moment as sacred? What would I say no to if I fully believed my future was already happening? You're already shifting, even if you can't measure it yet. Even if the outer hasn't caught up to the inner. Even if part of you still doubts, the deeper part knows you're not the same person who started this video. Something clicked. A veil lifted. A code was remembered. And that remembrance is enough to start collapsing new outcomes. So if the leap feels far, pause and check in. What if it's already in motion? What if the field is already rearranging around your new vibration? What if the most powerful thing you can do right now is keep becoming? Because your nervous system doesn't need to be convinced, it needs to be led. It needs consistency, safety, and tension. That's how you train your body to trust a new frequency. That's how you walk forward as if the leap has already happened, and soon enough, the world around you reflects it back. This is becoming, not a linear climb but a vibrational alignment. A choice repeated, to no longer abandon your higher self just because the old world hasn't caught up yet. And it's time to anchor that choice. If this message resonated, if you feel it not just in your mind but in your body, it means your leap is active. So speak it into the field right now. Comment, "I am shifting." This isn't just a comment. It's a declaration. It's a collapse. It's a thread between this version of you and the one who's already living everything you once thought was impossible. You're not on your way. You're already arriving. And every breath, every thought, every choice that aligns with that truth is the leap. The silent leap. There's a moment, usually quiet, almost imperceptible, where something inside you shifts. You can't fully explain it. You can't point to one specific cause. But suddenly, the craving to make it happen fades. The need to control dissolves. And what's left is something deeper, more still, more sacred. That is the frequency of the silent leap. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No fireworks, no grand gestures. But internally, it's a quantum detonation, a collapse, a reconfiguration of your entire being around a new center of gravity. You're no longer chasing. You're no longer trying. You're no longer asking, "Is it working?" You're simply being the version of you that knows it already is. This is the most powerful shift you can make. Because the field doesn't respond to noise, it responds to coherence, clarity, and the inner stillness that says without a word, "I'm ready." And in that readiness, that silent frequency, the leap becomes inevitable. You don't need to force your way into your future. You need to vibrate your way into it. And the highest vibration is not frantic energy, it's peace. The kind of peace that comes from inner congruence, from the end of inner war, from the alignment between your vision and your vibration. When you stop resisting who you're becoming, you accelerate it. And yes, the mind will still ask, but when will it happen? The answer is always, it's already happening. The signs may be subtle at first, a shift in how you speak, how you react, what you allow. But over time, they compound. The outer world begins to catch up. You receive an email, a call, a connection, and it feels like magic. But it's not magic. It's resonance. You were vibrating in a reality long before it arrived, and when it did, you were already there. This is the paradox of the quantum leap. It doesn't feel like leaping. It feels like arriving into something that was always yours, a reunion, not a revolution, a remembrance, not a chase. From this place, you stop needing proof because you are the proof. You're living it breath by breath, step by step, timeline by timeline. So if you find yourself in the silence between who you were and who you're becoming, honor it. If it feels like nothing is happening, yet everything is shifting, trust it. If you're unsure of the next step, but you know you can't go back, celebrate it. You are in the leap, not about to take it, not preparing for it, you are already in it. This is your invitation to stay, to continue vibrating at the level of the life you've chosen, to show up each day not as the version of you who's still waiting, but as the one who's already chosen, not because you're pretending, but because you're remembering. There's a field around you right now, watching, listening, responding. Every time you align without needing validation, you accelerate the arrival. Every time you embody without needing applause, you expand the capacity. Every time you allow instead of force, you become magnetic to realities that once felt impossible. And so we close this journey with a soft but powerful truth. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you're ready for. Readiness isn't something you wait for, it's something you become. If this journey spoke to you, if you felt seen, remembered, elevated, then this space is for you. This isn't just a video, it's a frequency. And if you want to keep vibrating in it, to keep expanding with us, I invite you to subscribe. Not just for more content, but because when you subscribe, you're saying yes to more moments like this, more reminders of who you are, more alignment with the field that's been waiting for you to arrive. Because your leap isn't coming, it's here.